Mando Fandos, where are you? There you are. Welcome to our brand new show called The Mando Fan Show, brought to you by Star Wars News Net and the Resistance Broadcast patrons. I'm John Hoey. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. With me, as always, is James and Lacey. And this is obviously a little bit different than the Resistance Broadcast. And you may even just be new to us in general by this right here, The Mando Fan Show. So this is all about, obviously, as you may have guessed, The Mandalorian. And this is our first episode, and we're going to be talking about Chapter 1 of The Mandalorian. We're going to get into rating it, so we're all going to rate the episode. Then we're going to talk about the episode in depth, spoilers. So obviously, if you haven't seen the show yet, get out, watch it, come back, and be a Mando fando. Then we're also going to get into Easter eggs and references, and of course, do our best guessing as to what we're going to see in Episode 2, which actually is going to show up sooner than later on Friday. So, guys, you ready to talk about The Mandalorian?
Yes.
Big time.
Big time. All right, guys, so why don't we start off by doing what we got excited about doing, which involves Pedro Pascal's face. And what we're going to do here is rate the episode. We're going to do this every week. 0 to 10. Halves are included. Pedro Pascal faces on how we rate the episode. So let's each go around first and give our ratings. I'll start with James. Chapter 1 of The Mandalorian. What do you rate it on the Pedro scale?
I think I'm probably just overall this whole thing is going to be the most pessimistic, but I still love the show. I'm giving it 7.5 Pedros out of 10.
7.5 Pedros. Okay, Lacey?
I absolutely loved it. I've watched it twice already. I'm going to watch it probably after this. I gave it 9 Pedros.
9 Pedros! So
9 out of 10.
If the episodes after this are like exponentially better,
I'm just giving all 10s.
10. Okay.
11s.
Right, 11s. This amp goes to 11. All right, so I'm in between you guys. I went with 8 Pedros. So let me just do mental math here. That averages out to 8.2 Pedros.
I love how you were like...
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, Lacey did the math before.
Let me think down on my notes.
Yeah, 8.2 Pedros for us on Chapter 1 of The Mandalorian. Not bad out of 10. I think that's pretty good. Now, we asked our patrons to also rate the episode, and we took the average of their score, and they gave it an 8. So, right? Pretty much in par with us there, you know?
I'm just the really, really excited one that's like, it's amazing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if you compare it to, like, Star Wars movies, like, I think right now on IMDb, The Force Awakens has, like, an 8 out of 10. So, really good score. I think so far so good out of the gate. We're off to a great start. And usually these types of shows start off with, exposition or whatever you want to call it to kind of set the tone. I think we're going to get more action involved here, so curious where the scores go from this point. But if you want to be featured on the show, make sure you're tweeting about The Mandalorian Chapter 2 on Friday using hashtag MandoFando, and like these folks did. So we have Cam Ray at Cam Ray. Way to get your handle, Cam. Cam said, I absolutely love The Mandalorian. So many nostalgia-inducing Star Wars moments. The mix of aliens was refreshing, and the final scene gave me goosebumps. I like the mix of humor and action, and it left me wanting much more. My score, 8.5 Pedro faces. Hashtag
nice.
Mando Fando. So 8.5. Solid, Cam. Then we have Johnny O at Limey Printmaker. And...
Limey.
Yeah, I guess so. British printmaker. Okay, so I'm sure he watched it legally. Way to go, Johnny. So Johnny said, it was very fan servicey, good but not great. Everything with Ugnulty, nice, was excellent, and some interesting story possibilities. Early days, 7 out of 10 Pedro Pascals. Or if you don't use hashtag MandoFando, if you're a patron of the Resistance broadcast, you can get on here by sending it in on our Patreon page. Lacey puts out posts for comments, and you guys did. And this week we picked Admiral Danny at Chibigon89.
Chibigon.
Chibigon?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was Chicago. Sorry, Danny. 8 out of 10 Pedros for me. I enjoyed the episode, but I felt that I had already seen 3/4 of it from all the footage from the trailers, not counting the ending, which completely surprised me, and I'm glad it did not leak before launch. So thank you for that, Danny.
Actually, it did leak before lunch, but don't worry about that.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about that. I was surprised by the ending, but we'll get into that in a minute. So to total it out, the three of us 8.2 Pedros, our patrons 8 Pedros, and then of course the folks there who made the show. So thank you for sending those in. And now, guys, let's move on to Easter eggs and references that we may have caught on the show. This thing was pretty loaded, and I think that's going to be a theme that carries on as the series moves on. So why don't we do this? We each take a turn. We'll pass the hot potato around, and or if the melted beskar steel, maybe we'll pass that around to keep it thematic here, and each go around until we run out of Easter eggs. So Lacey, what is an Easter egg you caught in Chapter 1 of The Mandalorian?
So I hope that everything I'm about to list is an Easter egg, and people aren't gonna be like, "You're just dumb."
Or also it could be a reference too. It could be a callback to something,
Yeah.
So the first reference / Easter egg that I noticed, well, one of, is the Donald Duck guy that's like calling the Ubers. I call him Donald Duck because he sounds like a duck, and he's got like the long snout. He's the one that like snitched on Han Solo and the other guys in The New Hope.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the same breed type.
Same species, yeah.
Yeah.
Gorindin as Zavor, and he's Kubaz. That's his species. Yeah. I don't know if that's him or not, though.
Yeah. Or long snoot.
I just found it so funny, by the way, that he had that little flute and he's like, doo-doo-doo-doo, and then the car pulls up. It was weird.
I also want to know
space Uber.
I need to know what the Mando's deal is with hating droids, but we'll get into that later. James, Easter egg or reference?
I think a lot of this stuff. I'm not sure if it counts as an Easter egg or not, but the beskar steel just in general. I thought what was interesting about that is that he's rebuilding his armor with this beskar steel, and if you do a little bit of research on it, you'll find that it's particular to blocking blaster bolts and even some like light grazes of lightsabers, but this was washed away by Sabine Wren when she made the Duchess. She created the thing that would penetrate beskar steel, which was a weapon to be used against their own people. So, I don't know, it's just kind of interesting. We're watching beskar steel be melted down, and it's like, this is all part of the Mandalorian culture, and it all kind of stems on each other. So I thought that was interesting.
It looked like an iPhone case that they had just like melted down. All right, I saw, obviously, land speeders via the Uber that picked up the Mandalorian. So that'll be my first one. And you immediately hear the sound before you even see it. You're like, that's a land speeder coming. Lacey?
And the same shot, too.
Yeah, very same, like that side shot, yeah.
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm playing like Battleship with you guys where I'm crossing stuff out.
Yeah, I am too.
And second of all, I'm super pumped that James is going through Rebels references because I'm not going to get those, and I know he will. So that's super exciting.
I mean, I don't know if there's a whole lot, but yeah.
I know, but along the way, I'm sure during the season. The next one was the reference to Life Day from the holiday special at the beginning with the Blue Gills guy, which, guys, I did like a somewhat live tweet of what I was watching. I was trying to take notes, but it just turned into a live tweet within my notes section because I didn't want to post spoilers. But during that section where I wrote this down, I also wrote, "Yo, this guy's an idiot," and it was the Horatio Sands guy. So yeah, he mentions Life Day. He wanted to be free by Life Day.
You should think about posting those to the Patreon page.
They're ridiculous.
All right, Life Day. We got our little holiday special. Apparently, Favreau's big on the holiday special, so we got that in there. James, you got another one?
Yeah. No, I don't. Oh, all right, here's one. Hyperdrive fail sounds of the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, I was going to say that. That surprised me because I thought that was it's supposed to be unique to the Falcon, but yeah.
Where was that?
I thought it was unique to...
In the Razor Crest when he was taken off.
With the monster?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Wow. You thought that was unique to something else, James, you're saying?
To the hyperdrive, like a hyperdrive, like no matter what you're doing, if the hyperdrive failed, it made that sound. And I was like, he's not even trying to like light speed. So this is just like a general takeoff sound or something. I don't know. It's kind of odd to me.
Okay. The iCam that was pretty much the same model from Jabba's palace when he went to go see Werner Herzog, who we don't know who his name is yet, but it went out and said almost the same thing, like, Uda, 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 you know?
Yes.
Yeah,
I love that.
I actually went back and found, listened to both, and it does say the exact same thing as Return of the Jedi. It says 2 lines, and both of them are in Return of the Jedi.
Right, and it's probably like, I was sleeping. What's the matter with you?
Yeah.
Lacey, you got another one?
Did the door thing laugh, though? Because in Return of the Jedi, it goes, oh, ho, 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 before it goes back in.
It definitely says more things in Return of the Jedi than it does here.
Yeah.
I just love that it laughs. It's like, oh, stupid droids.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the kind of disappointing thing, which I thought that you were going to do, John, which is the Koalian monkeys, lizard monkeys, being kept in cages and roasted, which we talked about after Celebration.
The Kowakian monkey lizards?
Yeah, Kowakian. That was very, very sad. The other one's like shivering. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah, you didn't hear any laughter there. That's for sure. You knew his time was up. No, it's a good pick. James?
The Mythosaur.
The Mythosaur. So the reference to what Mandalorians ride?
Yes. So there's a couple things actually here. So he says your ancestors used to ride the Mythosaur, and I was like, okay. So I should know that, and Todd's going to be mad at me, but I was like, okay, what's the Mythosaur? Looked it up, and I was like, oh, that's the Mandalorian, like, symbol. That's a Mythosaur. Mm-hmm. And they actually do show that symbol above, like, where he goes down into the little area. So that's like the Mandalorian club or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But I thought it was interesting that they specifically called out the Mythosaur in this. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, Filoni is the expert on Mandalore, so a lot of that's going to be entrenched, I think, even beyond Episode 1. Let's see, another one here for me. Werner Herzog had the Empire logo in an emblem around his neck. I thought that was interesting that even though the Empire was gone, he's still repping their jewelry. So I'm curious to see what he's up to beyond this. But if he's even in the show more, who knows? But Lacey, any others?
Yeah, I have a couple, but I'll do one. The money, the Imperial credits, and then the Calamarian flan or whatever it was. That weird, they were weird money. Yes. But as you guys know, I love Akbar, so I was like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is the first time we've seen that money used.
Yeah.
Can I be honest for a second?
Mm-hmm.
They look like condoms. Sorry, they do. Sorry, Lucasfilm. They do.
That's all right.
And everyone's talking about how jelly they are. I was like, ugh.
Hey.
How jelly.
Speaking of jelly, James, are you jelly about all these other Easter eggs that we're naming here?
No, I mean, like, I've written down a lot of these.
Fire off another one.
The Zuvio helmet.
I thought that was similar too.
Yes, we thought the same thing. Yeah.
Because it's like that turquoise.
Yeah, it's like a turquoise and purple or something, kind of painting or something. I'm not exactly sure. I don't think this is supposed to be that character.
Right.
It could be if they wanted to go back and they'd be like, yeah, he was here, and then, like, I don't know, he was doing this bad stuff, and then he decided to turn his life around and become more of a police officer of some sort, you know. But who knows? Maybe that's a nod at something, but I think just in general, it more likely is probably just like reused assets or ideas, and it's probably just another one of that species or something.
Yes. Speaking of species, I'm going to cheat here and fire off 2. Trandoshans and Jawas.
No.
I told you I was going to cheat. I did.
Yeah. There's I mean, I think you could sum that up into a lot of other species we've
Rhodians,
seen. Like there's Korans and Rhodians and all sorts of other ones.
Lacey, what else you got?
So back to the creatures and species thing. I mean, we talk about all the time how I feel like the the movies lately, the sequel trilogy, has been lacking in all these different characters and species and creatures and whatever. And I feel like this show made up for that in the first like 10 minutes. They were like, "Oh, you want aliens? Here's a bunch of aliens."
Sure.
There's a gonk droid that walks in front of him when he's going in to see the Werner Herzog guy.
Yes. Yep. Good call. James, what else you got?
So this is a weird one, and I wrote it down, but I kind of forget exactly where it happens. But there is a scene where he's looking through the scope of his gun, and something pops up right in front of him, and I was like, "That's very sand person in front of Luke."
Yes. Was it
that whole thing?
Blurg?
The Blurg.
Yeah.
Is it the Blurg that pops up?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah. Because it was almost like when Luke was looking at the banthas.
Right.
And I got the whole vibe from that, you know?
Yeah, I hear
that pops up there, and I was like, I think this happened because it happened in A New Hope.
All right. I've got 2 more. How many more do you guys have?
Why don't we end with you, John? I think you're gonna say the rest of them.
All right. I have hot wiring the door, which was a callback to Han Solo in Return of the Jedi.
Such a Star Wars thing. Nobody can open doors in Star Wars.
So hot wiring the door reminded me of Endor, Return of the Jedi, and then my other one was Greef Karga mentioning a wanted smuggler, which made me think of, Han Solo or Orlando or somebody, but kind of like a nod to that industry. So those are the end of mine. Right. No others, guys? Last call?
I mean, we had like R2 units, and then supposedly Boba Fett's in the background. I watched it back. I didn't see him. I think it's maybe just like they threw it in there as like, this guy's similarly colored, but I don't know. I feel like if they were really going to make a call to him, they would have done like a full shot on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Other than that, just like lines like, "Oh, I heard you guys never take your helmets off," and stuff like that, which is super fun. But I also love going back to the door thing. They try to hotwire the door, and then they always end up shooting the door lock. That's always what it is in Star Wars. They're like, eh.
That's all it takes. Just blast that, and there you go. You're in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's more, but there's just a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I mean, the thermal detonator inside of IG-11, kind of a little connection there. There was an R5 unit as well. I'm just crossing them off my list. Is there any chance when Mithril, who is the name of the blue bounty at the beginning of the episode, when he's going through the carbon freezes, he looks at one, he looks at a second, and he looks at the third one, and I'm like, I feel like that's a cameo. We're supposed to know that's Jon Favreau.
They held on a couple of those.
Yeah,
and I was like,
one was a Rodian,
it looks like Jon
woman,
Favreau to me, right? One was a Rodian, first one.
Right.
Yeah, then a woman, and then a man. And the man to me right away looked like Jon Favreau. And then I looked at it later, and I was like, it actually kind of looks like Pablo Hidalgo.
It would have been It would have been funnier if one of them was Vince Vaughn.
Yeah. Yeah. The only other thing that I think I got, and this is probably going to be all over the place, but when he first puts down the bounty puck and it pops up, it says "wanted" in Arabesh.
I knew you were going to figure that out. I'm like, I'm not even going to bother. James is going to be like, I translated. It is.
I mean, I know it enough that I looked at it and I could be like, I know what that is. Yeah, I could read that.
That's it. Easter eggs done, guys. That was fun. Let us know in the comments which ones we missed. Ones we mentioned that you find interesting and what they could mean. Hit us up in the comments and get the discussion going, as always. But now we're going to move on to the meat of the discussion, spoiler breakdown. All bets are off. We're not covering things up anymore. We're talking about the ending, all of it. So first, before we do that, though, guys, quick shot here. Favorite moment from the episode in a vacuum, no explanation needed. What single moment from the episode was your favorite? James.
I feel like I'm stealing it, but the Yoda thing. It's not Yoda, but it's like that connection there.
Boda.
Yeah, whatever we want to call him. Just the reveal of the ears and coming over the blanket or whatever, and it immediately does pull you into like, we're about to get into new and old, like at the same time. It just gets you excited.
Sure. Yeah.
Weren't we calling him Tiny? This is not Yoda.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, I came up with the acronym. It's not very good,
But it works.
Yeah, it works. He is tiny.
Tiny green boy.
And he's probably not Yoda.
He's probably not.
And God help me if he's a clone.
Gotta be not Yoda.
Because I'll start a YouTube channel different from this one.
Matt Smith, puppeteer.
Yeah, Matt Smith is Yoda. Lacey, what was your standout moment, aside from the one James probably just stole from you?
Well, it was actually Yoda.
I think that might have been everybody's, though. So.
I mean, it was just...
That's why I felt...
Honestly, the whole show was great, but that was one of those moments I had no idea it was going to go there. I knew it was a baby, obviously, from what you saw, but then once they showed the ears, I was like, what? And I was like yelling at 5 in the morning. Other than that, I really liked the beginning with the blue guy, which I don't know his name. James, you said his name.
Horatio Sands.
Horatio Sands. And his Looney Tunes limited jacket from SNL, just chilling. No, I loved how he was like super he was super talkative, and the Mandalorian's just sitting there, and it was these subtle little like kind of head movements like, okay, I've had enough of you. That was like so not only Mandalorian but like Star Warsy, because you always have that chatty Kathy character like a C-3PO or something, and then you have the person flying the ship, and then he's like so confident when he's like getting attacked by the monster that you're like, oh, he's got this, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
But it was just a really, really fun way to open the show with this like big monster, and he's flying off into space.
I agree. That's a good call. It reminds me of like X-Men when Wolverine's at the bar and those guys are messing with him, and then he's just like, I'm destroying all of you.
Yeah.
Mandalorian's just like boom, 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 chopped him in half.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I definitely got a Deadpool vibe from this, because they have this guild that they're like getting hits from, and they're like passing around pucks, which could be cards like Deadpool. I got and obviously they're similar, but I don't know. I think it's because Deadpool just came out a couple years ago that that's fresh in my mind.
Yeah. I know you want me to say the toilet, the debut of a Star Wars toilet, as far as in live action at least. But, and what they call it, like pipes or something?
Vac tube?
Vac tube, yeah.
So evac,
which we've heard
body.
refresher before, but...
Yeah. But no, I'm going to say the exchange between the Mandalorian and IG-11, when IG-11 kept wanting to self-destruct, it reminded me of Forky from Toy Story 4. He's like, no, you're not get back over. You're not trash. He's like, self-destruct mode. He's like, stop it. Just stop doing that. He's like, I got this. I think it was the most humorous part of the episode. And of course, it was Taika Waititi, so of course it's going to be, right? So I think that would be my pick as my favorite moment. But I mean, there was a lot, even the Ugnulty scenes I felt were like pretty good. Sorry, I got to plug in my laptop.
The funniest thing about that is James and I both thought of you when he was like, I have spoken. I was like, that's John. And then he said it again, and I was like, that's really John. And then he said it again, and I was like, well, someone is listening to John somewhere.
There it is.
I have spoken.
I have spoken. All right.
And then he just turns. That's the best part, is he says it, and then he just...
And then he's like, that's it. Like, the conversation has ended. I don't care what you say.
Imagine being in that conversation. You're like trying to talk, and the guy's just like,
that's it.
All right.
No other options. All right, let's take to another tweet here. We have, I love this handle. This is genius. The Jangolorian, like Django Unchained.
Ooh.
At the Jangolorian. So they're really committed to this. And they said, I dig the first episode. It definitely, in my opinion, distanced itself from the Fets. It showed me that as much as we love the Fets, they were amateurs compared to the Mandalorian. That's a fair point, I think. And he said that may not be a popular opinion. Hashtag Mando Fando. So get your fisticuffs out, Fett fans. The Mandalorian fans are coming for you. But he did show a lot of tactic there, and he didn't fly into the side of a sail barge. So I have to say, so far so good for the Mandalorian. All right, so let's talk about this whole episode, really. First impressions, like, were you guys, was it what you were expecting? Lacey, was it like going into the show and after watching it, were you like, that's kind of what I was vibing, or was it a completely different animal for you?
So I would say it's exactly what I expected, because I feel like, and we've said this a couple times now, that a lot of the footage that they showed, including the first few scenes, were footage we saw at Celebration. It was footage that they showed last night. It's footage in all the TV spots. Like, everything in there was a lot of stuff that we've seen already. The only parts that we really haven't seen was pretty much the second half of the episode. And then the ending was just, like, unreal, which I wasn't expecting. But I think the thing that stood out to me the most, honestly, was the music. Because we finally got to see the music as a whole.
Yeah.
Instead of like bits and pieces and ominous tones as we've been saying. So it sounded very much like Tron / Blade Runner / Westworld, like exactly what you would think it would sound like, which I think is perfect. And obviously the ending had the best music, I think.
Did he do Westworld?
No, I think the guy that did Westworld, lady, I'm sure it's a guy, I think, did Game of Thrones. Same person.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, that guy is good.
Yeah.
James, you're the music guy, so before we just start opening things up here, I'm curious, like, I really caught to the 2-note, like, his theme thing, like the banom, or whatever that was. It's like a piano or whatever. Any vibes on takeaways from the music in this series so far?
Not really a big fan.
Yeah?
No.
Okay.
No.
Too different?
You don't like tribal pipes and like yoga music and like...
I mean, I remember coming out of Black Panther thinking they really like nailed the aesthetic of the tone. And I don't think that's wrong here either. Like, there were definitely parts where I'm like, oh, this feels right. But I feel... I don't know. There's something about, like, it's not a score. It's just, like, background music. There's nothing that stands out to me because the main melodies are just like what you're saying, like 2 notes, like doo-doo, doo-doo,
sure,
or something. It's, like, not really doing anything. But the instrumentation is cool. But I do sometimes feel like he has a hard time figuring out if it's supposed to be earthy or techie, which I get that he's going for both, and he probably should be going for both, but sometimes it feels like it's an earthy song, and then all of a sudden it's like these weird sounds and stuff. I listened to the soundtrack today too, just to refresh, and I'm like, some of this stuff's weird. I'm not digging it like Solo or Rogue One or anything like that.
It's definitely not John Williams callbacks or anything like that, but
that's why I didn't say John Williams, because it's hard to compete with that. But even the people who are competing with them, like Giacchino, for instance, I think they did a really good job.
I felt like they wanted to emulate his staple, whereas this guy kind of went more off the cuff. But I wanted to start with music because a lot of people said that was their favorite part, so just curious where you guys stood on that. But now let's just open this thing up. Thoughts overall on the episode, spoilers, just whoever wants to take off and give your take on this thing.
Why don't you go, John?
I mean, I'll say this. Slow burn at the beginning. I know, Lacey, you said that was your favorite part. I felt like...
No. My favorite part was the end. I said...
I just stole it.
Okay, you just stole it. Yeah.
James said ending.
I think once he met Ugnulty or Kuiil or however you pronounce him, that's when I really started feeling the depth of the story, and I felt like he was the first one to bring out any kind of humanized elements of the Mandalorian himself. He was pretty stoic and wooden up until that point. Even when he was in the Mandalorian lair and having his flashbacks, which I guess we can get into in a minute, which were very like Batman to me, like we had predicted, being orphaned, and also a little bit of Jyn Erso, like go hide and that sort of thing. But when he met, Ugnulty, as we're gonna call him here, it felt almost like a mentor, but kinship there. I got like Mickey, Rocky vibes. I know, Lacey, you said that him riding the thing felt like that to you, and even some of the music felt like, because
just the slow push of him watching him being like, he's finally graduated. I was like, is he about to do like a crane move, like on top of...
And then some of the music there did sound a little bit like Creed, which this guy did the music for, right? So I definitely got those vibes.
That's the connection.
Yes.
That's
and
the connection. I couldn't
Spotify,
figure
it
out
goes from that.
why
Yeah.
this music sounded like Rocky to me. I really couldn't. I was like, I don't want to say that on the show, but like there's times where I'm like, this feels like it came out of Rocky. And you're right. That's totally it. You did Creed. So that's part of my thing is like I'm feeling like, okay, he's pulling from his past experience, but Rocky does not belong here. I kept making a Carl Weathers connection, but that's not it.
Hey, that's a good point.
That's not it.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I was listening to the Spotify soundtrack, and I'm in my car listening to it, and all of a sudden it goes to Creed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this isn't in The Mandalorian. And I look down, and it's Creed. So it had gone right from one soundtrack to the other.
Yep.
Yeah,
But
it
they
figured
sounded
out.
so similar
Right.
that when they made the switch, at first I didn't realize it was a switch.
Yeah.
So that whole
Yeah.
montage of him like learning to go on the blurg, I was like, okay, so we have the guy that's like, you could do this. And
Yep.
you like slow push.
What'd you guys think of
Yeah.
Ugnulty? Kuiil, whatever you want to call him.
Okay, let me jump in here. This is perfect.
Yeah.
That whole segment with him is my least favorite of the whole episode.
What?
Yeah, absolutely. I that section was the reason that when we were giving our scores for this, I originally said 8, and then I thought about that section. I was like, dude, I don't much care for the character. I thought that whole scene of like him offering to help, and then like over the course of like a couple hours, it felt like he was like, I don't know. There's so much in there that I'm like, the Mandalorian doesn't feel like he felt like he had it all together, and then he came to this planet and he has no clue, and he needs this guy's help and all this other stuff, and he's riding this thing, and it felt wonky to me, a lot of it. I was like, I don't care about watching him try to learn to ride this thing, like that does to me what the first part of the episode was doing was Hux in episode 7, and that portion was making it Hux in episode 8. I'm like, I'm not interested in watching him fall off. I don't know. Yeah, I just that whole section brought it down for me.
James has spoken.
Yeah. Yes, James has spoken. So
I have spoken.
James doesn't like the music. He doesn't like the heart of the episode. We'll find something he likes. We'll get there. But
no, I like a lot of the stuff, but
I felt like that was kind of a thing showing like, all right, this guy isn't, all perfect. He's not MacGyver. He's not going to figure everything out and know how to do everything. He does have flaws, and he is going to need help. I think that might be like
riding a pony.
Favreau's way of trying to again humanize this character who we're trying to get beyond just he's a Mandalorian. So I don't know. That's my take on that. But I liked Ugnulty. Lacey, what are you with James on this, or were you a fan of Nick Nolte's character?
I liked that character. I laughed really hard every time he said, I have spoken, and like turned away. I agree with you, John. I think he's there to show that the Mandalorian isn't this tough, I'm not talking to anybody, I'm in this by myself type of guy. Mm-hmm. And you needed that going into the ending to show you why he decides to do what he does. Right. So like in the beginning of the show, he's killing all these people. The guy's like, hey man, cut me a break. And then he shoves him in carbonite. And then he's taking these jobs, like no questions asked. He's like just going off on trips. And then he almost dies with a blurg, which I wrote in my notes, what? And then he shows up, and then he's like, hey, I'll pay you. I'll help you out to Ugnulty. And I even wrote like, oh, he's a softie. Yeah. That's what I wrote in my notes, because I was like, oh, so like he's one of those guys that's like, I'm tough, but I'm not tough, which then leads into the ending of he has a heart, which is ultimately what we always want from our Star Wars characters. Right. Is at the end of the day, they're humans too. They have emotions and feelings, and they just want to do the right thing, I think. Yeah, because he could have let Squidface leave the bar, and he's like, nope, get back here. And he cut him in half. That was a slow cut, too. That was not a slap chop. That was like a... Yes. Paper cutter. That was when you're getting through that hard like fruit, and you just have to do that final push. Yeah. Yeah. You're going too slow, and they all start folding, and you're like, no. No, right. And then you go bang. Yeah. That guy was leaving. Like he was like, all right, I got my butt whooped. I'm out. And he's like, nope, I'm cutting you in half.
So you have that's where they start, and then yes, they had to like show other sides of him. So I think that's where that happens.
Because otherwise, you'd be like, "What? Why did he spare the baby?"
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, this guy just cutting people in half, and his job.
50-year-old alien.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I think you nailed it when you said the Batman thing, because I was like, yeah, he reminds me of Batman at the beginning, and then he reminds me of Batman at the end. And then when I watch this part where he's like on the horse and he keeps falling off, I'm picturing Batman like falling off the horse, and I'm like, I don't want to see this.
Yeah.
I get that he has to like get better or whatever, but like it wasn't feeling right. I have a question about Nick Nolte though.
Yeah.
Is his character in this kind of like it all like Bill Murray in Zombieland, for instance? You love it because you know Bill Murray's history. I've never seen anything with Nick Nolte in it ever.
What?
So is it like a wink? Like, is he kind of Nick Nolte-y, and that's what makes it fun?
I don't think Lacey, are you a big Nick Nolte fan?
I don't know.
I think
I just like the character of the Ugnaught.
Nick Nolte he has a signature voice, especially later in his career now. So that's very recognizable. So I think maybe that's a little bit of a part of it. But he's a very accomplished actor, award-winning actor. Like, I mean, Cape Fear is a movie I love from like 1990 with him and Robert De Niro. So I don't think it's not like a Gary Busey thing where people like to mix those two up, where it's like, he's wacky and zany and blah, blah, blah. Like, Nick Nolte got like a DUI once, and it was a big deal because his picture was horrendous. Like, you would see him in a Star Wars canteen and think he was an alien in that picture. But no, I think I don't think it's that. I think maybe it's the mixture of how they put the character together, because I can't tell if that's CGI 100%, if there's some puppetry there with the mouth, or if
it looks like a mask.
Or if it's CGI, but they want it to look like it's puppetry a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm curious. I don't think we've seen the last of this character. I think it's not going to be the IG-11 situation, which I'll get into in a minute. But
I was just about to say that's a good segue to the end of this.
I do want to go. Let's go to IG-11 now. But I do want to touch on, before we wrap up, the flashback thing. But IG-11, I didn't think he was going to be in it long, just based on the conversations we had with Ash when we had her on, and Taika not being at the press conference. He was there mainly to be a director of the show. So I thought it was maybe, why don't we just throw you in here and do a character while you're here anyway. I liked the character. I thought it was cool. I thought it was funny, but not like over the top funny. It was like he was funny without realizing he's funny, like the character, I mean. And just seeing him a more animated version of an IG droid than we've seen before in live action, pretty cool. So what's your guys' take on IG-11?
It was very K2SO for me. I felt like it was basically that character, just a little dumber than K2SO. Like, K2SO is not dumb.
Right.
This character was like so literal that he was a little bit like 2 steps dumber.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than that than the Mandalorian. But the interactions with them are so funny because he's so literal about everything. Like, oh, I need to do this article of this thing and this agreement. And Mandalorian's like, can we just like go back and talk about this? Like, you're being an idiot.
He's Forky.
Yeah, I haven't seen Toy Story, but I believe you. But
yeah,
I mean,
John's spot on with the Forky thing for sure.
James, did you like this character?
I did like this character.
We're gonna finish this episode. James is gonna be like, you know what, guys, make it a 2.5.
Yeah, no. No. I did like this character a lot, and I have kind of 2 things to say about him, which is, one, like, is he really dead? I know the show's pointing you at that, and you're probably right, but it does kind of mislead a lot of their marketing and stuff of, like, we've seen these images with Mandalorian in the middle, and then Cara and IG-11 to his side and stuff, and I'm like, this is weird. Is there any chance that this character, he goes like, we're gonna need someone to help us get in? And he's like, well, I know what we could do. And he goes and like repairs him, and then he comes back to life, and they have a little comedic moment. I don't know. Anyway, I think that could be possible, and he might have more stuff, but right now he's dead. The other thing is that it kind of surprises me that they would kill him off this early.
I was totally caught off guard, but honestly, I'm glad it's him and not Tiny, because there was a split second I was like, they're about to go real dark with this right now.
I thought that too. When I first heard the blaster bolt, I was like, wow, this show is not pulling punches.
Wow, Filoni is not feeling the adorable creatures.
Right, George
which
Lucas
is like his thing.
George Lucas is definitely preserving the history of Yoda's species.
Do you guys remember the like marketing piece that was like often gets confused or mistaken for IG-88? I think everybody took that as like, oh, that's part of the joke, that's in universe. And that's going to be part of the character, and that never showed up. So is it that's another reason to think like maybe that comes up later.
Yeah.
But the other thing is then I guess we just all misunderstood that piece of marketing, and they were literally meaning it in the real world. This character is IG-11, but he often gets mistaken for another famous character, IG-88.
James, you could be right. I mean, it's possible we pick up, depending on how they tell the story, is it going to be pick up immediately after sort of thing? We may see the Razor Crest, and then they pan to the back, and you see all the parts of IG-11 laying there, and he's going to put them back.
Or another one shows up.
Oh, yeah. But the only thing about me is they clearly showed the zoom in to the head with a headshot.
With smoke,
which reminded me of when they like Rian Johnson purposely showed Snoke's dead face to be like, no, he's dead.
Yeah, there's no...
So I got it's dead vibes, but you're right. He may very well come back. I'm not sure. But is there anything else you guys want to talk about in this episode before we move to looking ahead to Friday?
Well, you wanted to talk about the flashback.
I want to talk about the flashback, but I want to know if you guys want to talk any more about baby Yoda-type species, the being, as the cast calls him.
Well... Yeah, the cool thing about it is in the article that was released from Variety, right? Or Vanity Fair.
Vanity Fair.
I always mix those up. I apologize. Vanity Fair, they said that George was always really protective of Yoda and his species and his history. So this is like, I feel like it's a personal favor for Dave Filoni that he did this. That he was like, okay, you can have this.
Yes.
So I'm interested to see where it goes, and then it opens up a lot of other questions, which goes into what's next. So
right.
I mean, that's all that there really is to talk about.
James, did you do any diving into the searching about this or anything like that, or did you keep it on the surface?
I'll say this. I happened to come across something a couple weeks ago that said this would happen in the show, and I was like, oh, maybe not, and I still completely forgot about it, and was totally revealed the same way as everybody else, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I think I knew that.
Was it on the
wait, that this
completely
species
forgot
would show up?
Yes, like baby, or possibly even multiple baby versions of Yoda's species were going to show up in The Mandalorian.
Was it on like a leak forum? You don't have to say where, but
yes, another known website for leaking information about The Mandalorian.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I'm glad I didn't know for once.
Oh, me too.
I was so pumped this morning when I watched it. I loved that feeling. It was so exciting. And you both were sleeping, and I was just texting with exclamation points.
Oh, I woke up and I saw your exclamation points, and I thought you were going to like reveal a spoiler, so I went right back to bed. I was like, forget that.
No, I wouldn't do that.
No,
I was saying like, it's live, and neither of you were answering, so I was like, exclamation point.
How about this? I want to set fandom on fire here.
Okay.
So, Empire Strikes Back, Luke leaves Yoda. Obi-Wan goes, that boy's our last hope. And Yoda goes, no, there is another. Talking about Tiny.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but you could say that about anybody, couldn't you? He could be talking about
Ray,
the Mandalorian.
He's talking. They won't do that to Leia. They wouldn't do that to Leia. He's talking about Leia.
I think the reason that your little theory holds water is because the only time we've ever seen these species is in Yaddle, Jedi Master, and Yoda, Jedi Master.
Right.
And so it implies that this character is special because they may have some sort of connection to the Force, which, by the way, that would mean I won the Will of the Force question if that shows up.
Yeah,
that is true.
Now, speaking of that, James, I mean, that's like kind of a joke thing. I know someone's going to come up with that and think it's like push it as though they really believe that. I'm just trying to have some fun and poke at stuff, but I don't think they'd do that. They'd retcon anything to do with Leia, and now that Carrie's gone, so I don't think that's going to happen. But So this character, 50 years old, in infancy, I find two things interesting about that. One, Yoda started training Jedi at 100 years old, so this thing better grow up pretty quick. And it's, it's halfway there, and it's still a baby.
Well, it could be a teenager by 100 years old.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, perhaps. So I found
Is that canon? Do we know that? Where's that from?
Well, he was 900 years old in Empire, and he said, for 800 years have I trained Jedi. So
There you go. Yeah. Gotcha.
And then 50 years old, that puts it at born 9 years before the Phantom Menace.
Yes, they said it was born while all the other movies were happening.
While Yaddle and Yoda were on the council, this thing was in diapers somewhere at daycare.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a very rare species, then Yaddle is a female.
Like a late night at the Jedi Council, Yoda had a couple of drinks. And
Is Yaddle a female?
Yeah.
Yeah, Yaddle's female, and Yoda is male. So theoretically,
does Yoda have a son?
Could be Yoda's son.
That would be
Could
tough.
this creature show up in episode 9?
I don't know. It's so crazy. But they're saying like this.
That would be crazy, Lacey. Like the end is the whole starting anew and like
because it has nothing to do with the Mandalorian. Right. Yeah.
And also, this could be that the reason why they want him is it's a Palpatine order. Like we don't know. We'll find out.
I honestly think it is Palpatine. That was the first person I thought was if he's still around, he's creeping around somewhere. And he hears these things.
I don't know.
He's like, bring me all the Force-sensitive things.
The only problem with that is, then once again, you're not doing a brand new Star Wars story that has distance, because then you're pulling it right back in. So that's a little risky to me. But though I found that all that interesting. We'll talk more about Tiny or Boda. Let us know what you want to call it. We're not calling it Baby. Yeah. We'll talk more about it hopefully on Friday when we talk about Chapter 2. But guys, do you want to move on to looking ahead to Chapter 2, or do you want to talk about that flashback for a second?
We can talk about the flashback.
I just think it reminds me very much of Batman. It looks like he's about to be orphaned. They put him somewhere to be safe, kind of like a Jyn Erso thing, like go hide in the bunker and they'll come save you. Those are all the vibes I got. So another, a trope of Star Wars, orphanage, like being an orphan. I think that may loom large here for the Mandalorian.
That's a Disney trope, not just Star Wars.
Sure.
Disney trope is parents always die.
Or fantasy in general, yeah.
Yeah.
So when this scene is happening, they're talking about foundlings, which is a new term. It kind of implies like an orphan or some degree. I think there might be a possibility here that, he's turning in his old armor that is not Mandalorian armor in order to earn real Mandalorian armor. And she says, this will be good for the foundlings, as if like we give this to the people, the children that we bring in as Mandalorian people, but are not actually Mandalorians. So that plays into Pedro Pascal's trying to earn his keep in a Mandalorian world, possibly. I'm trying to place on like what is a foundling within this culture, because he says he used to be one.
Yeah, I felt that we're going to see over the course of the series, like every time he does a bounty, he gets a piece of, achievement unlocked. He gets a piece of armor.
Yeah. I get that.
I think that's because what he's trying to do is he's trying to like earn his right.
Because they took care of him or something. Yeah.
Well, they also said the other thing too about has your signet been revealed? No, not yet. Well, it will soon.
Right.
So there's some stuff in there that we don't know what that means. But
right. Well, I like that, in the article I wrote today about it, yes, today. Wow. Lacey, you're going to be editing this and getting it out tonight. I said that it felt like this asked more questions than it answered. And I kind of like that because it's setting us up for another, few hours of storytelling here. But my last takeaway on this before you project and give our guesses on what may happen in Chapter 2 is Dave Filoni can direct live action. Now that has been answered. Now I'm sure he had the training wheels on, and Jon Favreau's not going to let him screw up. So obviously he had support there, and even George Lucas visited the set and was there to support him and all that stuff, which is really sweet when you think about it. But I thought he did a great job. I'm no director pro, but I thought it looked great. I thought it flowed great. I thought the cuts were good and done at the right time for the action sequences. So good job. Because I was a doubter with him with live action, so I have to admit I was proven wrong.
Mm-hmm. You were.
You guys good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as far as the episode, I think we pretty much touched on everything. Second appearance of glasses.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Dr. Glasses guy.
What is that?
Yeah. All right, guys. So looking ahead to Chapter 2, which is just a few days away. Pretty cool. Just real quick kind of deal. What do you guys think may go down? Chapter 2.
He's not turning into that baby.
He's not turning him in, or do you think I'm thinking he may get sidetracked like Han Solo style, and he won't get to bring it, or something will happen.
I don't think he's gonna turn. I think the moment that he stuck his hand out and then the baby reached up again. I don't know if it's actually a baby because it's 50 years old, but it looks like a baby.
It's in infancy, yeah.
It reached up to touch his hand, which is one of the most adorable shots. A beautiful shot, by the way, very widescreen. Mm-hmm. That was the moment that you were like, "Oh, he's not giving this baby up."
Right on. Okay, James.
Yeah, I think you're right, Lacey. I think, I don't know. I guess what I would predict is that he starts to take it back, and then he asks specific questions like, do you know anything about what they're going to do with this bounty? Like, oh, no, I wasn't able to find him. But do you know anything about where he's going? And then it will open up doors where he will have to test his mortality. Or not mortality. Morality.
Also, if he takes the bounty and doesn't turn it in, he's then now the hit.
Right.
Then that makes more trouble for him, and then that's down a different avenue where he has to, figure out where he's going to hide this baby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm curious when Greef Karga is going to turn on him. It's going to happen.
You still think he's going to turn?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Well, I mean, we haven't seen anything more with this character than we already knew. I think what my gut tells me, he's the one that the Mandalorian is going to ask about. Like, what is this?
Yeah,
why did you give me this job?
Right.
Yeah.
I think we'll meet Cara Dune in Chapter 2.
Yeah.
I think I think we may see Giancarlo Esposito. I think he may be after this Yoda species, the being, for similar reasons. And I'm going
to go with 3 on him.
Huh?
I'm going to go with
Chapter
3 on him.
I'm beginning to think, is this the being, this Yoda-like little infant thing, the MacGuffin of the series? So, because you're not going to open up George Lucas's trunk of secrets after 40 years of protecting this species and what Yoda is and all that for a throwaway. So,
right.
This being may be a part of this whole season, which means, is he the one thing everyone's after? And then is he immediately the MacGuffin? So we'll find out probably more on Chapter 2 Friday. Any final guesses? Are we seeing Cara Dune? You guys with me on that?
I think we are. Yeah, she's totally coming in Episode 2. Or Chapter 2, sorry. I keep saying episode. Chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
Sure. No reason not to. I think she's this another main character. What was the thing that I said where was it? She's in 5 episodes, so maybe not. Maybe episode 3.
And
yeah, maybe you're right.
And Lacey, what about your boy Bill Burr?
I think he's coming in later because I think him and the Twi'lek might be the people that get sent out to go find him.
Okay.
When he doesn't return the bounty.
And Fennec Shan's not showing up till episode 4 or 5. We know that.
And again, if this baby is the MacGuffin, if he has this baby, all these people are now going to be hunting this baby.
That sounds like where we're pointing towards. I agree. So,
yeah.
All right, guys.
So right now,
Protect the baby.
Not that IMDb is the best, but they have a bunch of characters listed as only 1 episode, which we know can't be true, right? Carl Weathers, 1 episode. Gina Carano, 1 episode. Giancarlo Esposito, 1 episode. But what is interesting is Pedro Pascal is listed as 8 episodes. The Jawa, the person who plays Jawa, is listed as 8 episodes. And then we have an actor named Brendan Wayne who shows up in 5 episodes, and another actor named Bernard Bullen who plays Father who shows up in 4 episodes. So that, I don't know, just kind of interesting
Probably
why
his
they
dad
got
in the
longer
flashback.
catalogs.
Yeah. And it's also,
I wonder
like
if
you say,
father is his father. Yeah, I don't know.
IMDb, so we're not really always sure about that.
Yeah, for sure.
But one last tweet here. Some guy, Todd can't stop watching The Mandalorian. At Todd Knows Best. He said, love the first episode. Perfect blend of new characters and stories with nods to the old, and the music and cinematography are fantastic and do a great job of giving that space a Western vibe. Really excited to see how the plot unfolds and learning more about these characters. Hashtag Mando Fando. So thank you for that, Todd. Todd's actually a patron of ours and probably the biggest Mando fan we know, so I had to throw him in there.
He gave the episode an 8.
Oh, he gave it an 8, huh? So, all right, right with me. All right. I think we're all around that 8 average.
Except me. 9.
Right. All right, guys. So let's just get our social stuff out of the way. Lacey, where can people find you to talk about Mando?
People can find me to talk about small, sweet, infant, baby Yoda creature at Lacey Gillerin on Instagram and Twitter.
Nice. James?
8-pound, 7-ounce sweet baby Yoda.
Sweet baby Yoda.
Yeah. I like to picture my Yoda with a tuxedo.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. The golden fleece blanket.
Yes, exactly. Twitter and Instagram at Meyer Trunks.
All right. And you guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey. I want to thank Star Wars News Net. You should be going there, StarWarsNewsNet.com, every day for all your latest Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. Obviously, you guys can find the 3 of us on the Resistance broadcast every Monday and Thursday right here on the YouTube channel for Star Wars Newsnet, and also wherever you listen to podcasts if you're more audio inclined. I want to thank our patrons, because this video would not be happening if we didn't have your support. So if you want to support what we do, go to patreon.com/resistance broadcast. We have 5 tiers. If you want to contribute to the show and rate the show, like we mentioned earlier, tier 2 and up. But check it out and sign up if you'd like to support us. And I want to say a special thank you to our generals over there: Carmelo, Brian Shalito, Andrew Staley, Neil Lowry, Jeremy Myers, Neil Shaw, David Probus, John Reese, J.G. Kars, Seth Kime, and Val Trichkoff. Thank you so much. And again, all of our patrons, again, we would not be doing this without you. Guys, we're going to be back here on Friday for episode 2 of the Mando Fan Show, and we're going to be joined by a guest. Jen Marie from the Anakin and His Angel blog is going to be with us, and she's going to talk all about Chapter 2 with us, and we're going to have a good time with that. So we're very excited for her to join the crew. So I just want to say thanks for watching, listening, being Mando Fandos, and we will see you again on Friday, right? Yeah? Good. See you around, kids.